How's it going, guys? It's Cole with See-Through Panel, showing off The Fade Out by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, published by Image Comics. This paperback retailing for $25 US, and as always, I will not be spoiling anything, but I will be flipping through the book, and if you're worried about being visually spoiled, come back after you've read it, and we can talk about it. It's probably better off that way, especially for a mystery book like this one is. And I'm going to try and keep this short for a couple reasons, the primary one being I just finished reading this about 10 minutes ago, and I normally like to sit on a book after I've read it and really think about it, but I'm so accustomed to Brubaker and Phillips storytelling and the kinds of stories that they tell that I think this will work. And also, I kind of wanted to review it when it was fresh for me because there's a lot of details, and also because I feel pretty strongly about it right now. And the reason for that is that it is a period piece, and I think that's something that Brubaker and Phillips have done before, but I think this works extremely well. As you can see on the back, it is a 1948 tale in Hollywood. It is a murder mystery with our main character being pretty much an unreliable narrator, suffering from frequent blackouts, drunken blackouts, and he wakes up, first page, not really any spoilers here, first couple pages, wakes up and there's a dead body of an actress whom he works with. He's a writer. And from there, you're introduced to, as you can tell, a large cast of characters. And the thing that Brubaker does really well is showing off each of these characters' personalities and having intertwining relationships. And pretty much every character is used to the fullest extent, which is something he always does, no matter how many characters are in his books. If it's 2 or 20, he is always exploring the depths of the characters that he presents. And Phillips, as always, is just immaculate storytelling. I want to say cinematic, but not in the way that I think most people think of cinematic. Not like Ultimate's Marvel widescreen stuff. I mean like really gets these minor details and motions of the characters and what they would be doing in each panel, and really just doing the small things that make it seem more lifelike. Him lighting up a cigarette, her answering the phone, and just making them seem more active in the panels rather than just being talking heads. There's real motion, there's real lifelike, there's fluidity to it. Interesting kind of layout there. And while the story isn't exactly experimental, I think it is experimental for Brubaker and Phillips. 1948 Hollywood is a time and place with a very specific aesthetic and tone about it, and it's really brought to life by Phillips here. I'm sure Brubaker in the script as well, but I think it's such a strong period piece that this could be presented in the modern day, but it would suffer for not being how it is here. It just makes so much sense, and the characters and the circumstances that they're all in really add together to make such a dynamic, compelling story, which is always the case for Brubaker, it feels redundant to say that, but he's just so good at making you care about characters, but more so care about the plot and the main thrust of the story. I do enjoy my main characters a lot in this book, but the mystery is what I'm really dying to know the answer to. I don't want to know how it will end with his characters. I mean, I do, but it's not the thing I want the most. I want to know who did it, why they did it, and all of the circumstances around the initial murder. And Brubaker and Phillips, there's a lot of killing in their books, but they're not always murder mysteries. And this being a murder mystery really elevates the story for me, because I love that kind of thing. I do love a good noir crime thriller, which they always do, but this specific brand of that really hit home for me. Phillips, I think, is working really well. I think his work with Jacob Phillips is probably the best colorist that they've gotten on him, but Elizabeth Breitweiser destroys this book as well. It's fantastic. If I had to pick anyone but Jacob Phillips, I would pick her. She's amazing. And these kind of neon, smoky flashback panels are really interesting to look at. Sean Phillips, a guy who has a couple styles he can do. He sticks to this one main style for his sequential art, but he does like painterly stuff and kind of more experimental things. And I like to really see that in the back matter and stuff of these books. But just where he really shines is just panel-to-panel storytelling, carrying the eye, keeping the characters moving, and stuff you've heard about when you look up Sean Phillips or you read a review on anything he's done. It's stuff that everyone compliments him for. I'm not going to say anything unique. It's easy to see why these two are make some of the best comics in the entire industry, at least the American industry. And I hadn't read this book. It's pretty far back in the catalog of Brubaker and Phillips, but I started with the more recent stuff. This is probably in my top 3 Brubaker Phillips reads, and probably one of my favorite, maybe my entire favorite mystery book that I own. It's just so well done. The narrative is so well paced. The characters are used, as I said, to their fullest extent, coming through each issue. And, if someone doesn't appear for an issue, they were doing something, and the next time you see them in the next issue, they will have done something to complicate the story and just make the narrative even more complex. The nature of our main character having these blackouts and basically unlocking memories as he's triggered. He sees a face, he sees some clothing, he sees just a piece of evidence or whatever, and it triggers a blackout memory from him, which I think is clever because it lets you do those last-minute reveals but feel a little bit more earned rather than just being Deus Ex Machinas. And also the character design, while sometimes feeling a bit samey with this blonde and the initial blonde, who is the victim, I guess would be, I don't even need to show it. It's here. But so this is our victim and this is the new one. And they do have very similar characteristics, but that is to be expected considering one is to be replacing the other in the actual story. And anything that feels a little samey in terms of character is used very well, like our main character dressing up as one other character that he looks kind of similar to and exploiting that to get into a certain situation. And without going too deep on all this, I should probably stop here soon, but I really loved this book. It's my first full read of 2023, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I knew I would. After this, I think the only book I don't have by Brubaker and Phillips would be Fatale, because the deluxe editions are super hard to get a hold of. I've got Sleeper on the way, and I'm really excited to read that. So, yeah, this book, highly recommend. I'm going to flip to the back matter here. Highly recommend. There's a list of all their books. Ooh, Incognito. I'm missing that, I think, as well. But, yeah, I mean, showing some range from Phillips. His own colors and line and everything here. Yeah, the guy's got a lot of range. He doesn't always display it in his interiors, but he does all his own covers, He does pretty much every stylistic thing inside here is all him. There's black and white, kind of old movie-looking panels. There's the way I won't flip to it because it's a spoilery page, but the way he shows figures underwater is super interesting, and how he changes his lineup is really interesting, and I'm going back into a rabbit hole, so I'll stop here. But yeah, the Fade Out, if there's any other comics that obviously aren't Brubaker and Phillips that I would be unaware of like this in a kind of murder mystery capacity, let me know. I really love this. 12 issues. I mean, gotta be one of the best mystery books I've ever read, like thriller books I've ever read. And definitely in my top 3, Brubaker Phillips, because everything they do is just so awesome. But really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks. Peace.